Wow.
Welcome, everyone. Carl, we're so very happy to have you here today. Welcome back to San Diego State University. My name is Salvador Hector Ochoa, and I'm the Provost and Senior Vice President of Academic Affairs here at San Diego State. And I'm here today on behalf of President de la Torre, who could not be able to join us today. Before we begin today's lecture series, I would like to do the land acknowledgement. For millennia, the Kumeyaay people have been a part of this land. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the San Diego State community, we acknowledge this legacy. We promote this balance and harmony. We find inspiration from this land, the land of the Kumeyaay. Today, we're so pleased to have our presidential lecture series. The lecture series is our signature lecture that is designed to bring together distinguished innovators, entrepreneurs, and civic leaders with our students, faculty, staff, and community. Speakers are invited to share their professional insights and life experiences to bring about meaningful dialogue that promotes knowledge, social interaction, and critical thinking. The title of today's presidential lecture series is From San Diego State University to the NFL to Hollywood. This is a unique opportunity to learn more about Carl Weathers' illustrious career, which evolved from being a student athlete at San Diego State University to becoming a professional football player, an acclaimed actor, director, and producer. We will begin with a casual conversation followed by a Q&A session. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the Interim Dean of the College of Professional Studies and Fine Arts, Dr. Heather Canary.
Welcome, everyone, and welcome to our guests who are viewing from the theater where we're streaming today's program. It's my great pleasure to introduce you all to Mr. Carl Weathers. Carl, it's great to meet you. And like so many others, I'm a big fan. We're so proud of your connection to SDSU and to the College of Professional Studies and Fine Arts. American actor Carl Weathers was nominated for an Emmy in 2021 for Outstanding Guest Actor in a Drama Series for his work in The Mandalorian. He currently holds a recurring role as Greef Karga on The Mandalorian, a Star Wars spin-off series presented on Disney+. His many credits include portraying Apollo Creed in the Rocky series of films, Al Dillon in Predator, Chubbs Peterson in Happy Gilmore, and Little Nicky, a fictionalized version of himself in the comedy series Arrested Development. Carl previously served on the Directors Guild of America board, currently serves as a DGA Western Council member, and is the current secretary of the DGA Foundation, along with other leadership roles. Prior to his acting career, Carl was a professional football player for the Oakland Raiders and for the BC Lions of the Canadian Football League. Carl transferred to SDSU in the Theater Arts program and played Aztec football under the legendary coach, Don Coryell. In 1979, Carl Weathers was honored by SDSU with the Distinguished Alumni Award. We hope you enjoy this very special dialogue from SDSU to the NFL to Hollywood between Ms. Tammy Blackburn and our distinguished guest, Mr. Carl Weathers.
Shall we? Well,
It's such an honor to have everybody here today, but really, truly, what a great privilege to have you. So I know everybody is very eager to hear from you, Carl, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Carl, you were born and raised in New Orleans in a district known as the Lower Garden District, and we have a wonderful photo of you and your sister at Mardi Gras. And throughout this conversation, we're going to be showing great photos. I mean, it appears that maybe acting was a part of your very early age. And let's also take a look at another picture that we have of you as Duke in a pageant play.
That had to be a football player, okay?
Yeah, I think so. There's the football player, second row.
Yeah.
Carl, you have shared publicly that New Orleans is an important part of who you are, and I'm hoping that you could just describe for our audience here today what it was like growing up in a community that you had a great connection with.
Yeah, well, thank you, first of all, Tammy, and SDSU for the invitation, for having me here, and I'm just so gratified that so many people decided to turn out for this conversation. Good God, we could have done this online, you know what I mean? You wouldn't have had to get all dressed up and come trudging out here in this beautiful San Diego sunshine. You could have stayed and been miserable in your home, but no, you came here. You know, growing up as a kid in New Orleans, you know, a million years ago, in prehistoric times, before the so-called civil rights movement, it was a little dark, to say the least, for people of my color. And so New Orleans holds memories both good and bad. My sister, who you saw in that photograph, is no longer with us, but she was an absolute delight as a kid, you know, just full of energy and love and sweetness. And so, you know, as her older brother, I was actually always looking to go out and hop on my bike and just get the hell out of the house and be with my buddies and travel around the town as you could then. And was all over that city. So the Lower Ninth Ward, at one point I lived, which was obviously flooded with Katrina. Lived in the 7th Ward when I went to St. Augustine High. Went to grade school there in that area, the first area there, what was called the Irish Channel. Why? Because there were a lot of Irishmen who lived in the area. And so there were a lot of great memories, as I said, you know. And there was a time also when I was a young kid where I just knew, because of my dreams and what I aspired to be, because I saw it everywhere except, you know, right there in my neighborhood, I wanted something more. And I think a lot of kids can relate to that. A lot of people can relate to that. And so that first trip to California took me out of New Orleans, and it was like, oh, the promised land. That's where I belong, you know?
Before, and you mentioned St. Augustine, because before you came to California, we're going to get there, but St. Augustine, what an incredible opportunity for you to play at that college prep school, not only as an athlete, but to get a scholarship.
Yes.
And by the way, there's about 30 NFL alumni that have come from there. So it's you know, obviously there's great success.
Yeah.
Tell us about your transformational experiences from that school. And was that a place where you knew you could be a very good athlete?
Well, first of all, I don't think I ever really knew I could be a very good athlete. I just worked a lot harder than a lot of other people, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, I was blessed with some physicality, with some size, decent genetics, and a half-operative brain. And so if I saw somebody who was doing something as a kid, football was one of those things, and I could just figure out how they did it, I always figured I could do it too, which is what I've done most of my life. I've cheated my way through this thing by copying other people, you know? So St. Aug was an all-men's Catholic high school, and I don't even remember how they found this kid out there playing ball at a public school, but they did. My folks were, you know, working class people who couldn't afford a scholarship, you know, to a private school, but somehow I got this scholarship, and bang, there I was, and I fit in because I was so ignorant I didn't know that I didn't fit in, as most kids are. And I managed to make the football team, and for me, every success was, oh, okay, then I can do something else. I can build on that success and do something bigger. That was kind of my experience there.
Formative years, right? I think of
Yes.
formative years for you,
Yeah.
obviously. And then something happened and you came to California because
Yeah.
then you went to Long Beach Polytechnic High School and then
Yes.
a brief stop at Long Beach City College.
Yeah.
That opened a door, an important door, and why we're all here today, for you to be able to play at San Diego State. And how did that happen?
Well, it's a long story, but I'll try to be brief, which is not really my forte. I'll tell you the first memory I have is waking up, true story, on a Saturday morning. So what am I? I'm 18 or 19 years old, something like that. And I wake up and there's a man sitting on the side of my bed introducing himself. True story. And I'm looking up. I don't know this guy. I've never met this guy. My sister, bless her heart, let him in the house. My parents weren't there on Saturday morning. He introduces himself. My name is Coach Hall. I'm from San Diego State. Okay, let's go. I mean, it was really so ridiculously simple because I had scholarship offers to other places, but none of them were places I wanted to go. I mean, come on, I was in Southern California. Why would I want to leave here, right? So, yeah. So I don't even think I took a trip no, I did take a trip to one other school, and it was SC, right? And that was because it was SC. And I don't know if it was that I wasn't confident enough or I wasn't, or my grades weren't good enough or what the deal was, but they were kind of lukewarm, right? They said they wanted me to play there, but they were lukewarm, and there was Sid Hall sitting on my bed, shaking me, waking me up, saying they want me at San Diego State. Who doesn't want to be wanted, right? Okay, that's where we're going, San Diego State. I never made a trip here until I'd signed and came here, and then it was like, wow, San Diego, Scripps Cottage sitting out in the middle there. The bowl was down there, which was where we practiced before the fields behind what was the athletic department. I mean, I remember when all of that went in, the student union was built when I was here. The theater had just been built. And since I'd been involved with theater, that kid with the long arms and the little costume, that pageant play, I loved it from the time, I grew up. And there's nothing like a child who gets applause. There's nothing like that, Anybody who's got a kid who's doing some good stuff, man, applaud them. Because that support and that love that comes through that and that acceptance, that is so valuable. It's invaluable. And so that being on that stage led me to San Diego State with football and San Diego State with majoring in theater.
And then things worked out pretty well. But
Okay.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I'd say all right. You came and you played for somebody who most people in this room know or have heard of, who we are also very fond of. And you have actually been quoted as saying that Don Coryell is one of the best coaches of all time.
Who's Don Coryell?
One of the favorites. A star in so many Hall of Fames. And by the way, about a week from tonight, we should know if he is going to make the NFL Hall of Fame.
Finally.
We hopefully will make that.
Yeah.
Yep. And what was it about him as a coach that separated him from the rest? And how did his leadership impact you?
Well, in retrospect, you can come up with all kinds of really good answers. The truth is, at that time, I just remember feeling comfortable here, on this campus with that coaching staff. Because, a head coach is really important. It's like a producer. Right? You get the right person at the helm who can put all these pieces together, then you've got a chance, And Coach Coryell was this, as I remember, this even-handed kind of guy who seemed to treat everyone with a kind of egalitarian attitude. And even though we knew different, because come on, you know, quarterbacks get always treated better than everybody else, okay? And especially if you're on the defense, they treat you much better if you're a quarterback. But he was just that way, and he was approachable also. And we won. Nobody complains when you're winning, okay? So we won all the games except one game, which we tied in the 2 years I was here. But we had a great coaching staff. You know, and Sid Hall, who was a linebackers coach, was somebody, you know, that man sitting on the side of my bed that I remember fondly. So, you know, Ernie Zampese was the DB coach, and my roommates were all DBs. So it just kind of was the world I got to know and was really comfortable in.
You know, it's interesting because you build this great career with football, but then you at the same time are thinking theater arts. And so you majored here in theater arts at San Diego State. And I just want you to help us understand better, what is it like being a student athlete who is also packing your schedule with the theater arts and demanding and performances and things like that that would happen?
You know, ignorance is a beautiful thing. You don't have any idea how challenging it all is, and you don't even care. You're just doing what you do. But if anybody has seen Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, that's a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde existence, okay? Because the athletes, particularly in football, man, here's a guy on the other side of campus in tights doing Shakespeare, and all these other plays, and on the stage, we had one person in particular that I remember, big fullback that some of you may remember, a guy named Lloyd Edwards. And Lloyd, for whatever reason, found it so amusing to literally stand almost on the other side of campus if he saw me anywhere around the theater building and go, "Yo, actor!" I'm a football player, Lloyd. You know, don't do that. That's embarrassing, man. But that was the way it was. When I was with the actors, I wore whatever that hat was, and when I was playing football, I wore that hat. Wasn't different to me. It just was what I was. Yeah.
That's interesting. We're gonna transition here, but before we get away from San Diego State and talk about your NFL career, and then we want to get into Hollywood, do you have a fond memory or maybe a favorite memory here at San Diego State?
Wow, so many. First of all, the town was such a great place to land. You know, for a kid who really, as most kids are, trying to find their way. And, you know, you're really fortunate if you have mentors that really lend a hand in your development, you know, where you're really not, as we all are generally, making it up as we go along, trying to figure our way through it all, you know, to this very day. But I met people here who, again, I think I experienced a greater degree of comfort when I was on this campus than I can remember almost any place at that time in my life. And the instructors were people that I really felt comfortable with. There's one man in particular, I mean, there were a few, I'll tell you, there were a few, but I remember, and I mentioned to you earlier about Dr. Povenmire, who anybody who had been around here in the 70s would have known about Dr. Povenmire, who was just, particularly with athletes, because you got all these bonehead football players who are trying to figure out what they do other than play football. And Dr. Povenmire just appreciated those guys, you know, and so we would all take his class because it was an easy class. You didn't have, it wasn't a lot of homework in Dr. Povenmire's class, but you had to show up and you had to perform. And he did what's called reader's theater, and so you really would learn to speak properly. You know, you'd learn to have proper diction. And he still appreciated football players. He just loved them. So you felt comfortable again. And then Dr. Stevenson, who was there and directing plays, and I took classes from, again, and there were a few other instructors that I had here who really, probably were much more generous than I deserved at the time, but, who made me feel comfortable. So that's a good thing. It's a really good thing to have come here, and I'm really so happy to be associated with SDSU, which, by the way, when I was here at first was SDSC. It was a college. We didn't even have accreditation. Come on. What's up with that, right? But they got smart real quick because that team was doing so well and the school was just growing by leaps and bounds. I think when I was here, I think the population, and I may be really off, but I may be way over, but I think it was like 25,000, which is not a lot of people going to a university. But it was an intimate place, and that was good, So all of that are memories. All of those are memories that I really hold dear.
And by the way, we are joined by some of our football Aztecs here today. And fellas, I just want to make sure you understand there is no such thing as a boneheaded football player. Not a thing. It doesn't exist, right?
Ball players can appreciate that. We all know. We know the truth, and we love it. We absolutely love it. Because if you aren't, boy, you'll get weeded out really quickly, okay? Would the ball players raise their hands? Oh, my God, yeah. Coach is here too, right? Come on, Coach. There you go. There you go. Little props. Little props.
Coach Brady Hoke in his second stint here with us. We're super, super happy to have him. Okay, Carl, we're transitioning here. After you leave SDSU, you sign. You're an undrafted free agent, right?
Yes.
Undrafted free agent.
Yes.
A couple rookies, and you go to the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because Sid, who you were talking about, he goes to the Raiders. John Madden was already there with the Raiders, and we know his connection to San Diego State. So just wanted you to help us understand and describe what it was like being a professional athlete with Oakland and the connections with the Aztecs.
Wow. Well, at 21 years old, you have no clue of what's going on in the world, okay? And certainly in the world of professional athletics, that is a huge leap. To give you an idea, these ball players will probably relate to this more than a lot of other people who've been around for a little bit. One of the quarterbacks when I played with the Raiders was George Blanda. George Blanda was in his mid-40s. I was 21. We called George the old man, because he was, okay, in football years. And it was like being thrown literally into the fire, because suddenly somebody is paying you to play this sport. It's not like in college where it used to be, and now things are changing because guys are monetizing. But back then, you were happy if coach could get you a job at the Christmas break or at whatever other break, you had, and they did. I was real fortunate. Well, I'll tell you, those dismal U.S. Postal Services at Christmas sorting packages is not fun in those cold stone buildings, but it put money in your pocket, So going to the Raiders, suddenly, you're actually getting a check to go to work. This is no longer like, oh, I don't feel like it. I got a boo-boo. Nuh-uh. It's like, get ready for war every day. And for those of you who haven't played sports, particularly on a professional level, you may not want to necessarily play football, get your kids to play football. I encourage every person in here, get kids in sports. There is no better preparation for your life, I believe, than team sports. You have to have responsibility. You got to show up on time. You got to be in shape. You got to know the playbook. You got to know how to work with other people. You got to take care of your assignment. You got to do a lot of things that are required of you in life. I don't care what you do for a living. That's those things that I learned all those years from the time I was in junior high school through, 5 years professionally, man, they serve me to this day. And so I couldn't recommend anything more than having your boys and girls in team sports. To me, it's invaluable skills that you learn, really. But in answer to your question, the Raiders was eye-opening, because there I am in Oakland in 1970. We are talking a lot of unrest, right? In Oakland and the Black Panthers. What an eye-opener for me. Coming from San Diego, I mean, this is too mellow, man. Guys on the beach, you're laying there, and surfboards and all that kind of stuff, right? And there you go to Oakland, that's urban. And there's some serious brothers dealing with issues during those days. So it's like, on one hand, you're aware of it, but football is an insulator, because you're doing something completely different that has nothing to do with that, right? And you're also dealing with adults. So, and you're dealing with those coaches who are professionals, who know that their jobs depend on how well they do. And then you've got the team owner, and Al Davis, who you're intimately involved with, because he was always around. He was always on the football field coaching. He was there, right? He wasn't one of those absentee guys up in the booth, man. He was on the sidelines. So you're just introduced to a world that is about professionalism and is about adulthood, is about responsibility very, very quickly.
What I would give to be a fly on the wall in a conversation with John Madden and Al Davis.
Man, back in the day. Here's 2 anecdotes. So I make the team as a free agent, right? First of all, I'm just going to throw this out on the table. The base salary in the NFL when I was a rookie, $15,000. That was the base salary, right? It actually was $12,500, but you'd make 15, okay? That was NFL, $12,500. Now, my apartment, brand new apartment in the heart of Oakland, was only $190 a month, okay? Carpeted, vacuuming in the wall, you just plug it in, wallpaper in the dining room, okay? Security parking, I mean, all of that, right? From $190, right? So, that $12,500 could go a little further. But man, the other side of that thing was, you're a young guy at 2021, you want to party, you want to have some fun, and it costs to go out, So it's a growing up experience. It was a growing up experience.
All right, let's talk about party. Let's talk about growing up.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Got to get there. I'm gonna quote you here on this, because this is a very interesting transition for you from football to Hollywood. My one eye was on football, and my other eye was on Hollywood.
Yes.
When did you realize that you were drawn to Hollywood? Was there an experience? Was there a moment?
There were a few experiences, but I didn't know it was Hollywood per se. I honestly didn't. I mean, that's foreign language when I was a kid growing up. But I knew the movie business, television, acting. I was drawn to that from when I was a kid in that costume there. And then I did a play in grade school, and people applauded and laughed at the lines. And I mean, wow, man, that's heady stuff for a kid, in 6th grade. So that, and then I went into junior high school and did plays and was performing, and in choir and all that sort of stuff, because I sang also. And then, college, I mean, it was like, what am I going to major in? And I had this wonderful instructor, a guy named Jerry Patch at Long Beach City College, who was involved in all kinds of theater at the time, and it was like the world of hippies was everywhere, and he was kind of in that world, And he suggested that I was in his class, in a theater class, an acting class maybe, I can't remember exactly what it was, but he suggested that I go read for a play, which I did, and I got a role. Way in the background, but I got a role, And I remember it was, actually I played a neighbor in A View from the Bridge, right? Who would have thunk it? Okay, they had a black neighbor. Okay, whatever, you know? so I do that play, and the director was a man named Desai, who eventually wound up running that department. And I got encouragement there, and all of those instructors gave me encouragement because I played football there, right? And when I got here at San Diego State, it was okay, I got a major in theater because that's what I'm loving, right? And the dream began. I just wanted to be an actor, and professionally, film was the thing that drew me from the moment I saw Sidney Poitier a billion years ago on screen. You know, there was an example that I could be that guy. And, you know, people like Woody Strode and Harry Belafonte, those images were important images for me, you know? And it just was a progression. Again, I couldn't have planned any of it. I was just fortunate, really fortunate being in the right place, right time, with good people who somehow, despite how inept I was at times, just gave me another shot. I think maybe it's because I tried really hard, you know? I really did.
You talked about Sid Poitier, and you know, you have to see it to be able to become it, right? I mean, I think that's important. So your football career starts to come to a close, and then all of a sudden, the acting career, things are flourishing for you. Some of your most notable roles, and we heard from Heather Canary, our dean of PSFA, Apollo Creed from Rocky, Chubbs Peterson, Happy Gilmore, Colonel Al Dillon in The Predator. Was there a role, Carl, that was in your early years that you would say may have been like a catalyst for you becoming such a huge star in Hollywood?
Well, huge star,
we
questionable.
think so.
Thank you.
We think so.
Thank you.
I mean, look at this. Look at this right here. Look at this.
You know, there's something to taking all of the accolades with a grain of salt. There really is, because boy, as quickly as it goes up, it can come down. Okay, and we've all seen it. The question again.
Catalyst. Was there a role maybe early on that was the catalyst?
Wow. You know what? I've had a mantra, if you will, that I utilize, and I say it sometimes flippantly, but I mean it. We're all auditioning for the next job. I never, ever, ever look at any one of them as, oh, wow, this is the one. You know, I just know that some feel really right, and I'm doing my best to create something that's memorable, indelible, that is satisfying as I'm doing it, and also that I think is going to be satisfying for an audience. So when I'm doing the work that I'm doing, it's always looking at it from both the perspective of the guy doing it and the guy wanting to see it. You know, is that what I'd like to see? Is that what would move me? So there was, I don't remember a specific catalyst. I can tell you this, that Poitier made a huge impression on me as a kid. Huge. I mean, the things I saw as a kid in, by the way, segregated movie theaters, okay? Man, those images, they can mean so much, you know? And despite all of that created kind of negativity that we as human beings create, it's kind of like that analogy of you know, broken asphalt in a neighborhood where there's this blade of grass or this little flower that comes up, you know? You never know, man, you never know. So as you move along in the world, you know, there's something about kindness, generosity, humanity. You know, some of us turn our heads to the side when we say it, but love. You know, expressing that is a good thing to do. You don't have to be, you know, somebody who's overbearing with it, but just that small amount of encouragement, somebody who may need it on a particular day, doesn't cost you a damn thing. But man, it can be so valuable to a young kid who eventually becomes this guy called Carl Weathers, you know, because of all those people along the way who displayed that generosity, that love, that momentary lapse of thinking about themselves and gave a little something, to that kid. I mean, all of that stuff, I think, factored into, why we're sitting here today, to be honest with you.
As I was walking here quite early to meet you earlier, and we were here early, and there was a line for people wanting to be able to see you today and just be able to celebrate you the way that we are here to celebrate you today.
Okay, you're all crazy. I wouldn't stand in line. You're nuts. You're nuts. I got to say this. The last long line I stood in was in the 70s, and it was to see, and I'm not blowing smoke here, folks, to see Star Wars.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't intend to go there, but who would have thunk all these years later, come on, man, I couldn't have planned this, It's the way the cosmos works. It's just the way it is. But stop standing in lines for all that time.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was going to say, as I was walking by the line, I could tell that there were some Star Wars fans and some Mandalorian fans. And, there's an entirely new generation of fans who have now see you as Greef Karga, the mysterious leader of the bounty hunters in The Mandalorian.
I do want to say this. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
please do.
I did plan that. Listen. There are folks in this audience I know who know this. If you want to, you can continue for as long as you want to, as long as you keep reinventing yourself. Okay? Yesterday is gone. It's gone. You can think about it, you can reminisce, but it ain't gonna help you. It's gone. Today, reinvent today. Today,
So while we're on the subject of that and reinventing and Greef Karga, we'd like to play a short video. Let's take a look at this short video clip here.
Oh, that was fast. Did you catch them all? Good, I'll begin the offload. Udoba Nuchak.
These are Imperial credits.
They still spin.
I don't know if you heard, but the Empire is gone.
It's all I've got. Save the theatrics. Fine now. I can do calamari flan, but I can only pay half.
Fine.
I have a bail jumper, a bail jumper, another bail jumper, a wanted smuggler.
I'll take them all.
Now, hold on. There are other members of the guild, and this is all I have.
Why so slow?
It's not slow at all, actually very busy. They just don't want to pay guild rates. They don't mind if things get sloppy.
What's your highest bounty?
Not much. 5,000?
That won't even cover fuel these days.
There is one job.
Let's see the puck.
No puck. Face to face. Direct commission. Deep pocket.
Underworld?
All I know is no chain code. Do you want the chit or not?
I mean, at the end of the day, this earns you a Primetime Emmy nomination. But, it's not every day that we get to speak to somebody and ask somebody what it's like to be part of that Star Wars culture, and wondering what that family's like.
Wow, they are dedicated, I'll tell you that. It's fans, you know, fanatics. They are fanatics when it comes to Star Wars, and certainly they all are so committed to keeping the culture of Star Wars on point. Anything in this that drifts in a place that is wrong in the minds of Star Wars fans, they let you know. They let you know. But we have, you know, all of us in that show have the great benefit of one of the producers being Dave Filoni. And Dave Filoni, Well, we got some real Star Wars fans here. As soon as I mentioned Dave Filoni's name, Dave is upstaging me now. No, Dave is, you know, his origin story really was, because he told me, I asked him, you know, he went to Lucasfilms originally to just get a job, and prepared, and he, you know, he drew and was a cartoonist, and really, apparently, just George Lucas really took a liking to Dave, because of all the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of young guys who probably went there looking for a job. How does Filoni wind up getting it, right? Because he really loved the whole thing. And he became kind of sat at the right hand of George and really learned from the ground up the whole lore of Star Wars, and knows the story like in and out, and as a result is a creator himself. Clone Wars, which some of you of course know of. Yeah. See what I mean? And Ashoka now, which will be coming out. I mean, that's all Filoni. That's all Filoni. So between Dave and of course, I mean, we've got such an amazing group of producers there. And Favreau being sort of at the head of the pyramid, Jon Favreau, who's a brilliant writer, director, producer, and you know what his resume is like, my God. And he's so into the technology that, as well as the business, John is he's somebody that, you know, good grief, man, I'm constantly leaning over his shoulder to learn more and more and more. But that group, they're so immersed. As a result, what the fans get is, I think, first of all, enough accuracy about that Star Wars multiverse is what I called it, right? But they also get these committed people who just love what they're doing. And so the fans are generally just, no matter where I've gone in the world, they're rabid, just rabid. And Grogu helped us out a lot. Helped us out a lot.
So you land your first Primetime Emmy nomination,
Yeah.
Best Actor and Guest Actor, I should say. And I guess, how does it feel to receive that phone call? It just has to be so incredible to get that call.
I don't want to sound like I'm ungrateful for the nomination. Guys, when you go to the bowl to play the game, what feels better, winning it or coming in second best? Okay? The athletes know what I'm talking about. Coach knows what I'm talking about, okay? It's nice, you know, it's nice. It's nice to be patted on the shoulder and said, you did a good job. Yeah. Hey, come on, give me the trophy, damn it. Give me the trophy. When I was here playing ball, we got the trophy. Okay? That's what we wanted.
Spoken like a true athlete.
Yes. Yes.
In your experience as a professional actor, what may have been to this point maybe your favorite role, and why?
I get asked that question a lot, and the truth is I don't have one. I mean, they all, to me, I say this to people, and I'm not, again, just making, but it's like having kids. I mean, you know, kids have, if you got 2 or 3 at least, then you got comparisons, you know, and one has a skill set, one has a certain personality, one has a look, one has a type, one has a this, a that, a dum, da dum. If they work, I'm happy. If audiences like them, I'm happy. Everything is not for everybody, and that's okay with me, you know. So for me, it's just, I just do the best job I can with the material and the people I'm working with, and with whatever this being possesses that can help, you know, hopefully elevate the material. Sometimes I hit a home run. Sometimes I don't get on base.
Yeah, yeah. So if you don't have maybe a favorite role, is there a character that maybe you felt like, wow, that was a great experience. I really identified with that character?
I identify with them all because my approach is real simple. That's what the piece is about, that person in their life. You know, people talk about, you know, being a bit player. Man, if you're going to be an actor, go in there with all and everything that you have to fill that role with as much of your humanity as you can, and it'll show up on screen. Because, you know, the analogy that was told to me many years ago in an acting class when I first went to Los Angeles was, you know, if you have a beautiful aquarium, and I say this to actors all the time when I'm directing, you have a magnificent aquarium with some of the most beautiful fish in the world, and you're watching those fish, right? And a cat walks in and sits down just beneath that thing and looks up at the cats, at the fish. What do you wind up watching? You wind up watching the cat. Because that energy that cat has, that is so directed, draws your attention to it. And as an actor, that's what I try to do. I try to be that cat. And, you know, whether it's the small role or the not so small world, folks are going to look at Carl Weathers. They're going to notice him.
I mean,
They're going to notice him. Yeah. That is also why every time Grogu is in a scene that I'm in, I try to get close to Grogu, because I know you're watching Grogu.
I think you're speaking to this, but I'm going to quote you again. As an actor, my job is to make you believe. So how do you get into character and make us believe?
Well, one thing is, it's a long process, and it begins way before the character comes. Work to master your craft. You know, there is a craft of standing in front of that camera and making you believe, and trying to, in a way, convey a character as a real person. That craft takes time to develop. You know, a lot of people think, and obviously it's true because look at social media, that all you got to do is stand in front of it and put on a funny face or wear a funny hat or no clothing sometimes, or whatever the thing is, that's, you know, that's talent. Okay, maybe for some people, but this craft I take seriously. And then there's the art form, which is a whole nother animal, in developing that and understanding that and being able to take that thing that is you and transport people through. I mean, they're looking at a screen where there was a camera and how many hundreds of other people standing around, and you buy into what that thing is that you see on screen. Well, that's developing that skill set and that artistry to be able to do that, block out all those people and all that stuff and that equipment and the lights and the sound equipment and the you name it, and can't remember the lines. I mean, it's all a part of how do I make that look effortless, right? So the preparation begins with that. Now, when you get to the various roles, that's a whole nother animal.
Yeah.
That's as much research as you can, understanding the piece, understanding the tone, understanding the character, understanding the arc of the piece, understanding the story, and then you got to be able to work with other people to help that happen. So if I'm looking in your eyes and you're looking in my eyes, we are communicating the camera, what we called back in the day, and some people still, you have to remind them, I'm talking to you, but I'm making love to the camera. And so the viewer is now looking at that, and I am pulling them in. It's like Svengali, because my attention is focused on you, and that's what the audience will wind up watching, you know? They won't see the acting, because there isn't any acting. It's reacting, really. It's being in this moment. So all of that stuff goes into it, and then at the end of the day, you hope that you've got a really good director who's going to help you, a great DP who's going to put the camera in the right damn place and use the right size lens and blah, 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 and a sound person who's not coming over constantly readjusting the mic because you're trying to be in a space, and they come in with their hands and whatever they've eaten on their breath, and then the smell of their clothing, or, I mean, it just goes on, right? And then you got makeup people who are constantly coming in. I mean, that's their job, but you got to be in a space to do this stuff well, you know? So that whole development period, man, it just goes on forever. It's just constant.
You mentioned director, and I do want to talk about that, but quickly, is there a future role that you would love to play that you just haven't been able to play yet?
Tammy. If there was that I knew about it, I'd have written it already. Come on. Oh, who the hell knows, you know? No, I'm constantly in a state of creativity, and I'm working with people constantly who are really creative people. That's just almost impossible to answer. There are genres, of course. You know, the right Western would be really interesting with the right character, the right comedy with the right character, the right love story with the right character. But until it's on the page, there are a few people here who know what I'm talking about. Until it's on the page, you can't dream this stuff up, you know, and say, oh, that's the character I want to play, because he ain't invented yet. Yeah. It's all somebody's imagination that puts it together, and when you read it, then you say, aha, yeah, that's the one.
Nice.
You know?
Well said. Yeah. All right, let's talk about directing. I have enjoyed so much our conversations the last several months about you getting so excited about your directing, and you've directed episodes of The Mandalorian, Chicago Med, Law and Order. We've got some great pictures here that we're going to show up. You learn a lot about yourself. That's what you said. You learn a lot about yourself when it comes to directing. What have you learned so far?
Wow. I've learned how far there is to go. Directing is, boy, probably for as many people who are called directors as there are, there is more room for them to grow as directors. It's a challenging job on so many levels. You know, we were talking briefly. Just before I go on, a shout out to someone who's in the audience who gave me really my first break as a director, and I don't mean to embarrass him at all, but he's here and he's part of this community in San Diego. Stu Siegel, who's sitting right here, was really so instrumental in actually, you know, and I said this to Stu not just this last week when I was calling him and asking him if he'd love to be here, because to come to San Diego and not see him I'd really be remiss. But before I knew what the hell I was doing and what I was really in for, there I was directing a show that Stu produced, and he produced many here. I was discovering as I go along, right? Just, you know, I mean, I knew I wanted to do it, and I'd done some prep, obviously, but, you know, you don't know until you're in the fire how hot it's going to be, right? So I guess I failed upwards. You know, Stu gave me a chance after a chance after a chance, and I began to understand a part of what that process was about. And a part of it is really just understanding that it's not just about putting a camera there and photographing people. You got to manage the personalities. You got to manage your time, because you've only got so many hours to get this done in, and that's all about money, of course. You know, and you're auditioning for the next job, as I said. So you got to deliver something that's workable for the people who are writing the checks, right? Whether it's the network, or at that time it was First Run, and of course it was Cannell involved, and there was Stu involved, and all these people. And you got, you know, your first AD breathing down your neck, who's anxious to make sure you get it done on time for whatever his reasons are, or her reasons are, because they're part of the machinery too. So the thing about directing, man, is there's so many masters to serve, you know, and you're trying to do a good job and be creative, but it's not for a weak heart, you know?
And you just seem to be enjoying directing.
Loving
and
it.
From our conversations. And we know how much you love acting. So, and I think I know the answer to this question based on what you've said before, is directing or acting, do you have a preference?
Directing.
Directing.
No hesitation. No hesitation.
Yep.
Acting is wonderful. It had an allure at a particular time in my life. Directing is like being a great painter. It's just taking all those things and putting them together to create that image and tell that story, you know, from the canvas to the paints to the brushes you use to the style of painting, obviously whatever conceptually you're trying to convey. I mean, there's so many things about it, to the light you have, the image itself. There's just something about it that is so all-encompassing, you know, encompassing, and so comprehensive as a person who's just walking through the world, that you utilize all these things you've learned and are learning constantly, and trying to bring them to fruition in a way that affects an audience, you know? That you're not gonna get that from me in a lot of things, you know? And you also get a pat on the back from a lot of people who, you know, remember you as an actor too, so that ain't bad, you know?
Yeah. You've also been in the business world. You started your own company, Red Type Media.
Yeah.
And just wondering what inspired you to create your own production company?
Wow. Well, part of it, I mean, you know, in all honesty, in the movie business, television business, a lot of this is for people to avoid having to give taxes out of their initial pay and pay it at a time later. So you create a company through which you get paid basically in gross and blah, 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 blah. You hold on to your money a lot longer than the government will, okay? So that's how it starts out. But also, if you want to actually produce projects, it's a way also of you know, having an umbrella that you can put it under. And there's Stormy Weathers Productions, which was the beginning of it all. And then Red Type Media came about actually as a result of my being involved with some work for the military. You know, Gary Goldman, who is another buddy who's here, who was our I guess our liaison and our mentor and teacher as we were running through the jungles with Predator. Because Gary was real military and knew what he was doing, and here we all out there fakers trying to pretend like we know what we're doing, and a bunch of guys grab-assing, which makes no sense for a movie that's supposed to be about military guys. But Red Type Media came about as a result of really befriending Gary and listening to him and a few other people that I know from the military, and doing projects for different installations around the country, and it just was an outgrowth of that.
Yeah. You're also somebody who cares about others and making sure that you are there for them. I know that you've had great mentors in your life, and you want to do the same. And you've had some great rewarding opportunities. You've earned a spot on the U.S. Olympic Committee. You helped to manage the careers of rising stars. And you are also involved in Big Brothers Association. Do you have a particularly rewarding experience? Mentorship at this university is so important to us.
Yeah.
Do you have a rewarding experience that you can share that maybe you'll never forget?
Well, with all of those organizations, I was just very fortunate at that time to be asked to participate, right? And participating in worthwhile causes, at least what I deemed worthwhile, was important to me. Today, I don't know that we necessarily have to be involved in an umbrella organization. I think there is opportunities every day to treat somebody in a way that you would have appreciated being treated like, you know? I think just making that a part of your life is good. If you have children, you understand, man. You got to pass down whatever you can to be helpful, you know, while you're here. Because once you're gone, I mean, oh, really? He was a great guy? What did he do, you know? And if you have grandchildren, another thing. I mean, you want to make the world and the path a little better for them, and you want to give them some tools to help make their way, you know? So I just, you know, I try to be helpful when I see or recognize or come in contact with young people who, man, we're all just walking through here trying to do our best sometimes, you know, and just an encouraging word can make a difference. Just somebody saying hi to you, you know, as opposed to just kind of moving by and not even acknowledging you. So whenever the opportunity is there, and I really think I have something valuable to contribute, you know, to that person at that time, that for me means a lot.
Mentors give us such great advice, and we have students here. We know we have some of members of our football team. Do you have any words of wisdom for our students in terms of pursuing their dreams, whether that's acting, sports, or anything else?
Boy, that's a scary place to go, asking for wisdom. Man, especially as dumb as I am, to come up with wisdom. Oh my God, the times I've tripped over my own feet. You know what? It's trite, but I think it's true. It's really follow your dream. You know, if you have a dream and it's something that you really just are drawn toward. I mean, you know, not one of those passing, oh, I want to be a millionaire, let me go play the lottery. How about going to work if you want to be a millionaire and invest, you know what I mean? It's okay to play the lottery, you know, but come on, what are your chances, all right? But, you know, if you want to become, let's say, an architect, I don't know how old you are, but you want to become an architect, just think about it if you went out and worked on a construction company first, just digging holes, just carrying equipment around. Anybody in the entertainment business knows a lot of people wind up going out there being a gopher, man. Non-paid, by the way, you know? So many of us start because we want to be a part of it, you know? So I used to, as a young actor, and this is absolute God's honest truth, in Los Angeles back in the day, you could go walk onto a soundstage. And Universal was right not far from where I took acting classes. So a lot of times after acting classes, so was Warner Brothers, because they were in the Valley in Burbank. What would I do? Just go and walk on the lot, just like I belong there. And just go to sound stages and watch them working, because I wanted to be there, right? And one of my greatest memories of doing that is watching George C. Scott on a ladder for about 2.5 hours, not one word, but on the Hindenburg, on that movie, doing something with a little clock or something. And just standing there watching. Now, it got boring after the first hour, I gotta tell you, because nothing was going on except that thing. But they're doing different sizes, angles, different blah, 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 you know? And it was just a passion. So just go do it. If you got something that you love, that's calling you, that you dream of doing, hey man, you only got one chance around. Not that I know of anyway, in this particular form, you know? So get off your butt and go do it. Go do it now. Don't wait till tomorrow. because that quote is true. There is no tomorrow. It is today. Today. So, you know?
Yeah. Carl, we want to wrap this up. I understand that you have a simple model, and I just think that this is so important. And I'm going to end this interview with a quote. Never be afraid to poke fun at yourself.
Yeah.
You've said that. You've said that to me. We've talked on the phone. I've heard you say that in multiple interviews. How did this come to be that this was your motto? And is it still that motto for you today?
It's applicable because I'm such a serious guy all the time. See, this didn't happen because of no reason. That's because it's like that, you know. And playing football, it was I just had to just bear down all the time. And growing up, it just felt like everything was so serious, you know. And then you get to a point where it's, man, life's too short. You know, you got to have some fun with stuff, and particularly have some fun with yourself, because this is a challenging world we live in. And so, you know, just finding a way to try to lighten things up sometimes, even with yourself, and remember that, you know, hey man, it ain't that serious. You know, there are people with far more stuff to deal with than you have to deal with. So try to lighten up a little bit.
Lighten up. I like that.
Yeah.
Carl, you are the light of so many wonderful things in this life. And
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, the incredibly talented Carl Weathers.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Go Aztecs!
Aztec for life. We have the wonderful opportunity now, and I hope you all enjoyed the conversation, that we're going to have some question and answer. And with that, Heather Canary.
Great. Thank you, Tammy. And thank you, Carl. So we'd like to hear from as many of you as possible, and we appreciate you keeping your questions short and succinct. We have a mic set up there in the aisle, so please go ahead and begin to line up, and we'll take as many questions as possible. So, yes, first one.
Mr. Weathers, big fan. You're a big Star Wars fan like me. Who would you have liked to play other than Grief?
I don't know. I don't know that they've created that character yet. All the characters are really so fantastic, you know, throughout all of these incarnations of Star Wars and these iterations of Star Wars. Man, I don't have one that I can think of that would be any better than Greef Karga is, you know. I just say throw more of Greef Karga at me, you know. Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Thank you.
This is the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, thank you.
Hi, Carl.
Yeah.
So my dad is a huge Rocky fan, and it was probably the first movie I ever watched when I was a kid. And you know how you talk about how you looked up to actors and made you want to become an actor? Well, for me, you were one of those actors that made me want to become an actor.
Oh, thank you.
And I just wanted to ask you, had any advice for anyone starting in the industry?
You know, it's not so much advice as if you love it, just go do it, man. Just go do it, you know. There are a lot of people who say they want to do this and they want to do that. I knew someone who always said she wanted to be an actress, right? There's small theaters, there's regional theaters, there's theaters in churches. If you want to be an actor, go be an actor. There is a difference for a lot of people, though, because what they really want is they want to be a movie star. That's different. But if you want to be an actor, just go act, man. Just do it any way you can, everywhere you can, you know? Don't go to the end result as much as go to, let me enjoy this today and do my best at it today.
Well, I've been doing it since I was 14 years old, and
Thank
I just
you.
want to say thank you.
Thank you, man. Keep it up.
Thanks for being here with us today. And I was wondering if you have collected any of your merchandise over the years from films, whether it be like action figures or anything. I was
Of
wondering
course. Come on. Of Come on, of course I have. I have all kinds of stuff. In fact, where do you put all this stuff after a while, you know? It's like collecting dust in corners and stashed over here and stashed over there. Not that I'm not appreciative of it, but man, it's just too much stuff, you know?
I'm not sure how much you are into it, but I was wondering if I could present you with this Grief Karga Lego minifigure.
Come on, man, give it to me. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
You know what's lovely about this is that Disney's collecting money hands over fist, and I'm not getting a penny out of these. But they're selling. They're selling. Thank you.
Carl, hi. This is Aaron Bergen. We actually had a chance to speak over the, last year when we did the Q&A for SDSU News Center, and I thought that one of the answers that you gave about the NCAA and NIL and the advice you were giving to young student athletes who are pursuing NIL opportunities, I wanted you to get a chance to, talk about that advice to these young men who, are having those financial opportunities that other athletes didn't have in the past.
No. Well, what advice can I give them? If somebody comes to you and it's legit and you can monetize and it's all within the law, why not? I mean, let's face it. When I was playing, if I could have monetized it, why wouldn't I have? The only thing I would add to that is put it in the bank, man. Invest it some way.
Thank you.
And lastly, because he asked that question, which is really a loaded question, it goes down the road, man. We know what the statistics are with athletes make it as a pro. I mean, the chances diminish incrementally. They diminish. And we know that the lifespan of anybody in pro football maybe is 3 years, the average. That ain't a lot of years. So just do the math. You come out of college, hopefully at no more than 21. 3 years from there, you're 24. What are you gonna do for the rest of your life? Take that money, man, and invest it somewhere. Do not spend it all, because those dollars, they can disappear easily. They are hard to get. They are really hard to get, and you got a lot of life ahead of you. So, find somebody who's intelligent, somebody who knows how to invest properly, and don't do fly-by-night stuff, because who needs that, right? But invest.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I just had a quick question about directing that I wanted to get your perspective on. When you're directing something that you're also acting in, does that make it easier because you know like exactly how you want it to be and all the blocking and stuff, or does that make it harder because it's just another job that you have to worry about doing?
No, excellent question, man. It makes it easier for me because of what you just said. And I've had the experience too many times where you can line up a shot, you've got cameras, and particularly when if you're not on sticks or on dolly, right? The cameraman is moving also, right? So it could be steady cam, it could be handheld, it doesn't matter. But as he's moving or she's moving, because there are a lot of women operating cameras today, as they're moving, let's say the cast is also moving, right? And if I have to be aware of where camera is, which is what I said before. No matter what I'm doing, I'm making love to the camera. That's what I'm doing it for. And if you get the back of my head, that's not a performance, so I've got to play toward camera, right? But when I'm in that scene, depending on the blocking of that, I can always adjust myself so that the person upstage for me is not covered, I'm not blocking them, or if I move in a certain way, it might prompt them to move in a certain way so that the light hits them right or whatever. So my head is in all of that at one time, but I've found it makes it, I won't say so much easier, but a lot easier. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good question.
Good question.
Hi, Carl. My question is, since I'm mixed race and I'm a film student here, and I'm, as someone whose dream job is to work at Lucasfilms, what's your take on representation in Hollywood? Because I rarely see myself on screen.
Wow. Well, I think there is more and more and more that's happening that way with mixed race people. Clearly, I mean, you know, you look out there. It may not be exactly the same profile of your mixed race, but it's happening more and more. I think part of that is coming out of we are growing as a species in our intelligence, and maybe releasing some of the ignorance and prejudices that we've held for so long, because at the core of it all, money. If there's a profit to be made, you could be a Martian, you'd be in front of the camera. Somebody could figure that out, right? So, work on your craft, whatever, you know, path it's going to be, in front of camera, behind the camera, whatever. Work on it. Become masterful at it. You'll get a shot. But you got to go out there and you got to hustle, man. They, you know, there's tons of people. There's boatloads rolling into Los Angeles, I guarantee you, every day, with stars in their eyes, who are dreaming of being whatever they are dreaming of being. But there are those nose to the grindstone kind of people out there who are just grinding it and who make it so, you know? So, best of luck to you, I'll tell you that though, because why not?
You.
Why not you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
On a personal level, what motivates you to work hard every single day? That really motivates you every day. And it would be an honor if you could also sign my food cones of you.
If I could do what?
Sign it.
I won't do that.
Oh,
Okay? But I appreciate your way of working into that. I thought that was pretty slick.
Thank you. Thank you.
Why? What's the alternative? If you don't work hard, what's the alternative? You want to be rewarded for being lazy? You want to be rewarded for not showing up? You want to be rewarded for not being good at what you do? Look at how many people in different professions, and I can speak to it personally, I bet everybody in here can, that you hire people to do something, particularly, not to rag on anybody, but in the construction business, in the repair business, they don't show up on time, or they don't show up at all and won't even call you. They'll have an excuse why they couldn't show up. They'll do a bad job, and it costs you more now to dig yourself out of that hole. So why not do the best job you can do? Because that's the way you want to live your life. You want to half-ass things? Fantastic. There's a lot of people doing that. But that, to me, is just criminal in its own way, because you're doing a disservice not just to the people who are, you know, relying on you, but you're doing a disservice to yourself.
Yes.
That mentality, to me, is, I'm not a fan of that mentality. I'm just not. So
Thank
work
you
hard.
so much.
Work hard. You're welcome.
Carl, huge
Hi.
fan of your work and
You got to articulate, because that mask, man, it sounds like you're talking through mud.
Hello, Carl. Huge fan of your work in Star Wars and other properties. How was it like acting along Pedro Pascal or directing with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau?
It's like every other job I have, man. It's hard work. Talented people are good to work with, but you still got to get the job done. It's no different at all, you know? And just as I said earlier, we're all auditioning for the next job. So you're trying to do the best you can to open opportunities for yourself in something else, you know? Fun, but work.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi. One of my favorite works of yours is The God of Basketball from Regular Show. And I was wondering if voice acting takes like a different preparation for your performance rather than live acting, and what the difference might be.
That's an interesting question. You can walk in your pajamas and your voice acting. Who cares? They're just going to hear your voice, right? I mean, there's a certain skill set that's necessary, right? And a certain talent that's necessary for that. It's certainly different, that's for sure. But it's, you know, it also can be a very good way to earn a living. There are people out there who do incredibly well doing voiceover work. So yeah, it's different, but you know, there's still, you gotta do what you're doing right, you know, or you won't be asked back to the dinner or the table or the anything else, you know, to the dance. So, you know, if you're interested in that, there are places to go to learn how to do it well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, Carl.
Hi.
This is Mario Cázares. I'm from Culiacán, Sinaloa, Mexico. I'm learning English.
Yes, I can
Yes.
understand that you're learning English. I hear
Okay,
it.
thank you, thank you. So I'm a professional fighter, boxer, and I'm gonna be world champion. I promise to God, promise to you.
What weight
promise-
class?
Super middleweight.
Okay.
My next fight is gonna be for a world title. Okay. I want to tell you that Apollo Krill is one of my heroes in my life.
Fantastic, man. Thank you.
When I was 12 years old, I wanted to be Apollo Krill. I used to run before going to middle school. I used to run to get my boxing gym, because I didn't have money for bus. So I used to move like
Do you have a
Apollo
question?
Krill, like Apollo Krill, jogging and moving
Yeah.
like him. You are my Apollo Krill. Apollo Krill is my hero. So the question for you is, how important is to have the eye of the tiger in life? And
Boy, that
another one-
preamble to the Constitution was really long, man. Look, in anything, if you want to be successful, you got to focus. You know, I don't know. There's success and there's success. Maybe people judge things differently, you know. But I have to be happy with what I'm doing before I think you're ever going to be happy with it. And that means I've got to really, really buckle down and focus and do everything I can to make it as good as I can make it, right? Call it eye of the tiger, call it anything else you want to call it. But it's just, to me, perseverance and focus and expending the energy necessary to accomplish what you're looking to accomplish is just a part of life. Goes back to sports, man. You know, 2-a-days come around. Buddy, if you aren't in shape, you're going to really suffer if you can make it through it. So, you know, what you did running, it helped you. Good. Thank God you didn't have any money, okay? You had to compensate, man. And we all do that. So good on you. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
I won't,
Thank you.
won't sign it. No.
Hey, Carl,
Hey.
huge fan. As someone who seems so sure of the moves you've made throughout your life, or just so much so sure of yourself, so much confidence, how would you, or what
I
advice would
fooled
you?
you, didn't I?
What advice would you provide to a younger generation like myself that may not be so sure in the next step they want to take?
Who's sure of anything? I mean, really, think about it. I can tell you one thing I'm sure of. One day, none of us are going to be here. That's all I'm sure of. That's all. The rest of it, man, doing the best I can as I make it up and go along. That's all. And have confidence in just, it's going to work out. That's all. It's going to work out. It's going to work out for you if you put in the time and the effort to make it work out. So you dream it, you make it so. Right? You know, and on that, I'm just going to follow up with this. Somebody said to me a long time ago, which again, I wasn't sure of anything. I went to this thing, and a lot of men have probably done these, maybe some women have done them too, these groups that you go to, and it's basically about empowerment and learning certain things. And the guy who was leading this thing said something that really stuck with me. And he was saying, you know, look out the building here, and you look out. At one time, this land, Mr. Ochoa is saying it, about who inhabited this land. None of this was here. This is all imagination. Someone imagined this. and then they put it into practice on making that imagination so. Imagination, man. Use your imagination to make whatever it is you want in life to happen. You make it so. All right? Confident, be confident in that.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll make this quick. First, I want to say that the Predator handshake is still something I do to this day. If I'm trying to just, you know, it's beautiful. But my question to you is, I know you've worked with a lot of actors in your career, but I'm particularly interested in your experiences with Bill Duke and Adam Sandler. So, just
wow, talk about opposite ends of a spectrum. My experiences. Bill's a great guy, intense. Adam's a great guy, intense. They just come at it in different ways. But I had a fantastic time with each one of them, you know, and learned so much by being around each one of them. You know, I get up, man, and one of the things I do is really, which helps me with this other gentleman who asked this question about, you know, being sure of yourself, confidence. One question you can ask yourself, which takes a lot of pressure off you, what am I going to learn today? Just ask that question of yourself every morning when you get up. Man, you don't have to go out and perform. All you got to do is go, look at that. That's interesting, you know? So, Adam, I learned some stuff. Bill Duke, I learned some stuff. It'll be in the book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
Good afternoon, Mr. Weathers.
Yes.
I first watched the Rocky movies about 4 years ago, and I was fascinated by your performance as Apollo Creed, and it's such an honor to be able to speak with you right now. And my questions are, first of all, how well has Michael B. Jordan carried on the legacy of Apollo Creed as your character's son? And then secondly, what are your expectations for the upcoming Creed 3?
What are my expectations?
Yeah,
Okay.
Do you think it's going to be good, bad, or?
I don't know. Did he do it for you? Michael B. Jordan?
Michael B. Jordan?
Yeah. You asked me about, you know, him playing the son and all that sort of stuff.
I'm sorry,
How do you feel about it?
I think he did great.
There's the answer, okay? It doesn't matter what I think. It's really, if he entertained you and you thought he did great, you put down your X amount of dollars to see it, right? So, man, rely on yourself. You're a good judge, okay?
Yeah.
And the second part to your question was?
What are your expectations for the upcoming
expectations. I don't have
movie?
any.
You don't have any?
I have nothing to do with it except they utilized footage and they paid me for it, and as long as the check cleared, I'm good.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you all
Thank you so
for your
much.
questions.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for your questions. And what an inspiring afternoon. Carl, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your stories and your experiences with all of us. In appreciation, we are pleased to present you with a personalized plaque that will adorn a theater seat in SDSU's new main stage theater.
Whoa.
And the special etching on your seat reads, Carl Weathers, acclaimed actor and producer, Aztec for life.
That's the chair right there, Carl.
Oh, beautiful.
All getting named.
Oh, beautiful. Wow. I think that kind of forces me to say thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, I'm overwhelmed. I mean, that's cool. That is really cool.
Yeah, so are you. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you,
Yes.
thank you.
So, by the way, this seat, it's part of our Take a Seat campaign to support SDSU's new Performing Arts District opening next fall. And in case any of you were wondering, anyone can participate in the Take a Seat campaign to honor a special loved one, colleague, or alum and support the arts at SDSU. Thanks again to our special guest, Mr. Carl Weathers, to you, the audience, and to SDSU President Adela De La Torre for bringing us together. I hope that you enjoy your evening, and thank you for exiting the hall at this time.
Thank you. Thank you.